There are days when the world seems determined to test you to your limits. The phone keeps ringing, messages flood in, unexpected demands shatter your plans, and with just one misplaced word, the air around you turns heavy. In that moment, your heart races, your mind spins, and every instinct urges you to react instantly. But if you pause and take a deep breath, you will see. The chaos outside holds power only if you allow it to enter within. The Stoics believed we cannot control every event, but we can always control how we face them. Calmness is not a lucky gift. It is the result of discipline, of recognizing that you have the power to choose your response instead of becoming a puppet to your emotions. Each time you remain steady in the storm, you strengthen your inner foundation and expand your own limits. And when you truly understand that inner strength, the world may shake, but you will remain unmoved. So, how do you keep calm in the midst of chaos? 1. True strength reveals itself in chaos. A person's true strength cannot be measured when life is calm and favorable. When work flows smoothly, relationships are harmonious, the body is healthy, and finances are stable. Remaining calm and clear-minded is something almost anyone can do. But that is not the true measure of resilience. It is when the storm hits that the real nature of strength emerges. When an unexpected event strikes, a betrayal shakes your trust, a loss shatters all plans, or an unforeseen change dismantles everything you had prepared for, the human mind is often pushed to its limits. In those moments, you see clearly who is strong only in words and who has truly trained themselves to stand firm in the storm. One who has never trained the inner self will be easily swept away by emotion. They react instantly with panic, anger, or despair. Their mind is pulled away from the present, drifting into the worst-case futures or trapped in the regrets of the past. Meanwhile, those who understand the Stoic spirit know the true enemy is not the event itself, but the chaos within the mind. The storm outside cannot sink the ship unless water is allowed inside. In the same way, no event can break you unless you let it seep in and take control of your inner state. Marcus Aurelius once reminded us that the greatest power a person holds is mastery over their own mind. When the world shakes, the first challenge is not to change the circumstances, but to keep the mind from bending under pressure. True strength lies in the ability to remain still amidst disorder, not from indifference, but from the discipline to respond with intention. This is not cold detachment, but a heightened clarity that allows you to see the situation more clearly, while others stumble blindly through the chaos. Reaching this state requires long, deliberate practice, not only in great crises, but in the small daily tests. Each time you face the unexpected and choose to steady your breath, keep your voice even, and think with clarity, you are building your mental muscle. Just as the body is strengthened by weight, the mind is strengthened by pressure. Every storm you pass through without losing yourself is another moment your inner strength grows. Looking back, you will see that the moments that shaped you most deeply were not when everything went well, but when everything seemed to collapse and yet you stood firm. It is when the world lost order, but you kept order within yourself. True strength is not never falling, it is rising calmly and continuing forward no matter the circumstances. And that is the clearest sign you have built a foundation the storms of life cannot touch. 2. Calmness is a signal that spreads. Calmness is not merely an inner state, it is an invisible signal capable of influencing the environment around you. In any group or situation, people tend to mirror each other's emotions. This is a natural response of the nervous system, where we unconsciously imitate the expressions, tone, breathing, and energy of those in front of us. This is why, if one person loses control, chaos spreads quickly, drawing in many others. But the opposite is also true. When someone maintains calm, steady breathing, and clear speech, they can lower the emotional temperature of the entire space. The Stoics understood this principle long before modern science gave it terms. They trained self-mastery not only to protect themselves, but also to serve as an anchor for others. Calmness, when held firmly, sends the message that the situation can be handled with reason, that there is no need to react in panic. This creates a psychological safe zone where others can think more clearly, instead of being pulled into the spiral of tension. The power of calmness lies in the fact that it does not impose. It doesn't need shouting or commands to be noticed. On the contrary, its very quiet stability draws people toward it, seeking guidance. When someone can remain composed under pressure, they not only keep themselves safe, but also set a new frequency for others to align with. This is a natural form of leadership, born from mastery over oneself rather than external authority. Epictetus said what matters is not what happens, but how we respond to it. In other words, our reaction not only shapes our own outcome, but directly influences how those around us perceive and act. If one responds to tension with steadiness, they unconsciously give permission for others to do the same. Calmness becomes a silent yet powerful invitation, urging others to slow down and approach matters more rationally. However, for calmness to spread in a lasting way, it must be genuine from within, not a mask covering turmoil. People can sense pretense, and if your inner state is in chaos, while you outwardly pretend to be composed, the signal will not be strong enough to affect the environment. That is why the practice of calmness cannot stop at the surface. It must begin with managing thought, regulating breath, and staying present. Calmness is a rare form of influence in an age where quick and forceful reactions are valued. It not only reduces conflict, but also creates space for wise solutions to emerge. When you become a source of calm, you not only shield yourself from pressure, but help reshape how those around you face hardship. And when this happens consistently, your presence becomes a silent reminder that in any storm, there is always a steady center for others to turn to. 3. Stillness is the peak of control. Stillness is not the absence of action, nor is it surrender to circumstances. Stillness is a conscious choice, a quiet yet powerful form of action where you refuse to be pulled into the cycle of hurried reactions and instead choose to observe the full picture before moving forward. In a world full of noise and pressure, quick reactions are often mistaken for sharpness, but for those who truly master themselves, knowing when to pause is the clearest proof of strength. When pressure rises, instinct urges us to do something immediately to release tension or reclaim control. Yet it is this haste that often leads to poor decisions, as the mind has not had time to separate objective truth from assumption and emotional impulse. Stillness acts as a necessary buffer, allowing you to view the situation with clear eyes, to discern the core of the problem from the noise surrounding it. To the Stoics, stillness is the state of a mind trained to remain steady even when all else is in turmoil. It is not passivity, but a form of strategic response, where every action is weighed carefully on the scale of reason and principle, rather than driven by emotional push. In stillness, you retain control over your thoughts, words, and actions instead of handing that control over to circumstances or other people. Seneca once said the strongest person is the one who can master themselves, and stillness is the clearest expression of that mastery. When you can pause, observe, and refrain from reacting automatically, you have removed yourself from the vortex of external forces. This not only enables you to make better choices, but also sends a powerful message to others that you are not easily swayed by pressure. Stillness also creates space for wisdom to work. When the noise of worry and tension settles, clear insights and sound solutions can finally surface. This is why stillness often walks hand in hand with clarity. A still mind is like a calm lake, reflecting the truth without distortion from the ripples of negative emotion. Training for stillness requires persistence and deep self-awareness. Each time you choose silence over immediate rebuttal, observation over impulsive action, you strengthen your control. Over time, stillness becomes second nature, keeping you grounded even in the most high-pressure moments. And when this becomes part of who you are, you realize that the peak of control is not doing the most in the shortest time, it is doing the right thing at the right time. And sometimes, the right thing is to pause and observe in stillness. 4. Do not become a mirror for negativity. Human beings tend to react to the emotional state of their surroundings. When you step into a space filled with tension, frustration, or panic, your mind can easily synchronize with that state. This comes from the brain's natural mechanism, where mirror neurons activate to copy the energy, tone, and emotional rhythm of others. However, if this mirroring happens unconsciously, it can cause us to lose self-mastery, turning us into products of the atmosphere around us instead of active shapers of it. The Stoics were keenly aware of this risk and considered maintaining one's inner state a crucial part of mental strength. When you reflect negativity without awareness, you have allowed the environment to dictate your emotions and actions. This not only weakens your ability to think rationally, but also unintentionally amplifies the very chaos you wish to avoid. In contrast, when you maintain stability, you become a balancing force in that space, a fixed anchor that prevents the collective atmosphere from sliding deeper into negativity. Marcus Aurelius once reminded us that the soul is dyed by the thoughts it chooses to dwell on, and the same is true of the energy it absorbs from its environment. Without vigilance, the negativity of others can seep in and shape your mental state, eroding your capacity for deliberate response. Maintaining inner distance from negative energy does not mean indifference or isolation from people. It means protecting your mental space so you can respond from a solid foundation rather than being swept up in instability. This requires continual training. You must develop the ability to recognize when you are beginning to mirror the surrounding energy and stop before it begins to shape your behavior. A vital part of this process is keeping your attention anchored to your own core values and principles. When you are clear about who you intend to be and what kind of energy you want to bring into the world, you become less vulnerable to the fleeting emotions of others. Not becoming a mirror for negativity also means serving as an emotional filter. You take in information and signals from the environment, but instead of returning them in their raw, destructive form, you transform them into a measured response grounded in reason and composure. In this way, you protect yourself while also positively influencing the broader situation. Over time, as you remain steadfast in this approach, you will notice that your ability to maintain your state under pressure not only preserves your clarity of thought, but also changes how others interact with you. They come to realize that any attempt to provoke or draw you into negativity is futile. When that happens, you have not only freed yourself from the environment's control, but have also asserted a quiet form of power. The power of one who refuses to be a mirror for the chaos of others. 5. Cool down from the inside first. True calm is not the result of a peaceful environment. It is the product of an inner decision. Many believe they can only be at ease when there is no conflict, pressure, or noise around them. But this is a misconception. If your calm depends on external conditions, it will always be fragile and easily broken. The Stoics understood that external chaos can only affect us if we allow it inside. Therefore, the principle is to cool down internally before attempting to adjust the circumstances. The space between stimulus and response is small, but it is precious. It is that moment when you recognize that an event or a word could ignite an emotional outburst, yet instead of letting reflex take over, you pause. In that pause, you do not suppress the emotion, you acknowledge it, then consciously temper its intensity. This is the starting point for preserving clarity. The Stoics believe that emotions are neither inherently good nor bad. It is how we handle them that determines their outcome. When you cool down from within, you are choosing to respond through reason rather than impulse. This not only helps you avoid actions you might later regret, but also allows you to respond appropriately to the situation rather than merely reacting to momentary feelings. The process of internal cooling begins with awareness. When your heartbeat quickens, your body tightens, and your thoughts rush, these are signals you are approaching your limit. Instead of letting tension escalate, you bring your attention back to your breath, slowing it down and deepening it. Steady breathing is a simple yet powerful way to signal to your nervous system that there is no immediate threat, easing the stress response and making space for clarity of thought. Cooling down internally also means questioning the meaning of the situation. The Stoics often reminded themselves that external events carry only the weight we assign them. An insult has no power to define your mood unless you grant it that power. By reassessing, you reclaim control and refuse to let outside emotions dictate your inner state. Practicing this principle over time develops a steady temperature for the mind, one that does not swing wildly in the presence of any trigger. When you control the initial reaction, you shape the quality of every action that follows. Each decision made from a cooled mind is more likely to be wise and balanced, reducing both conflict and harm. 6. Breath and clarity are the anchors. When chaos strikes, the human mind often responds with survival reflexes. The heart races, breathing quickens, and thoughts surge with worst-case scenarios. In those moments, most clarity is swept away, replaced by uncontrolled reactions. The Stoics understood that to keep the advantage in adversity, you need an anchor to keep from drifting, and that anchor is breath and clarity. Breath is one of the few aspects of the body directly governed by the will. When everything around you moves too quickly, returning to deep, steady breathing sends the body a signal of safety. It calms the nervous system, slows the heart rate, and eases muscular tension. Slow breathing is a silent reminder that you do not need to react immediately, that you have the right to take the time to see the situation fully. However, breath is only the first step. For the anchor to hold, it must be paired with clarity of thought. Clarity here means the ability to separate objective reality from the assumptions, fears, or narratives the mind invents. As you inhale and exhale calmly, ask yourself, what is truly happening, and what is just the story I am telling myself? This question allows you to distinguish events from emotions, reducing the risk of being pulled into the spiral of worry. Clarity also requires recognizing what is within your control and what is not. The Stoics constantly emphasized that while you cannot govern every event, you can always govern your response to it. Once you define this boundary, the mind stops wasting energy on the unchangeable and focuses all effort on meaningful action. When breath and clarity work together, they create a rare balance between body and mind. The body is freed from the grip of stress, and the mind is freed from the haze of emotional turmoil. In this state, you can view the situation from a wider perspective, seeing choices that may have been hidden behind panic. Training breath and clarity to become your anchors requires regular practice, not just in crisis but in ordinary moments. Each day you can pause for a few minutes, breathe deeply, and examine the thoughts passing through your mind, identifying which are facts and which are assumptions. This is like sharpening the blade of the mind so that when the storm comes, you are not scrambling to find your balance. Once this anchor is firm, you will find that no matter how fierce the waves, your inner vessel remains unsunk. Breath and clarity not only help you endure chaos, but allow you to make your best decisions even when everything around you is unraveling. And when this becomes habit, you will see that you are no longer swept away by the frantic pace of the world. You can stand firm, observe, and act with wisdom. 7. Prepare the mind before adversity. Inner strength is not forged only in the moment of crisis, it is built long before the crisis arrives. The Stoics understood that adversity is not a possibility but a certainty, and mental preparation is the best armor to avoid being caught off guard when it comes. Preparation here is not about expecting things to get worse, but about familiarizing the mind with the possibility, reducing the shock when it becomes reality. If you rely solely on emotion to be ready for hardship, you place yourself in a vulnerable position. Emotions are as changeable as the weather, strong today, weak tomorrow. Preparing the mind before adversity means replacing dependence on emotions with the steady foundation of reason and principle. It is deciding in advance who you will be, how you will act, and which values you will stand upon when the challenge appears, so that when it comes, you do not waste time searching for answers. The Stoics often practiced premeditatio malorum, mentally imagining the worst possible scenarios. This was not to spread fear, but to strip away surprise and reduce the mental shock. When the mind has already seen the scene, its reaction in reality is less chaotic, allowing you to approach the problem with greater calm and clarity. Mental preparation is also about cultivating flexibility. When you accept that every plan can change, you will not feel such a great sense of loss when you must adjust course. Instead of clinging to one fixed scenario, you expand your capacity to adapt, ready to change direction while keeping your core objective intact. This keeps you proactive even when every external factor seems against you. Another key aspect of preparation is building tolerance for pressure. You do not wait for adversity to arrive to learn how to manage stress. You deliberately create small daily challenges so your mind grows accustomed to discomfort. When you are used to manageable pressure, you are less shaken by the unexpected kind. Preparing the mind before adversity will not remove hardship, but it will transform your entire experience of it. Instead of feeling like a victim under attack, you enter the situation as one who is ready, accepting that challenge is an inevitable part of the journey. In that moment, adversity no longer dictates your actions, you use it as an opportunity to prove your inner strength. And when you look back, you will see that preparation has not only helped you stand firm, it has helped you grow. Every time you pass through a foreseen challenge, you not only reaffirm your own ability, but strengthen your belief that no matter what happens, you will always find a way forward. 8. Loosen your grip. One of the main reasons people live in prolonged tension is excessive attachment to outcomes, to the way things must go, according to personal expectation. When events align with your desires, emotions soar. But the moment plans shift, the mind becomes unsettled, creating frustration and anger. The Stoics understood that life never unfolds exactly according to our script, and the more we try to control what is beyond reach, the more we risk losing our inner peace. Loosening your grip does not mean abandoning goals or living passively. It is the choice to focus on what can be controlled: your thoughts, actions, values, and attitude, while accepting that the rest will follow its natural course. When you detach your identity and emotions from external results, you reduce your vulnerability to unexpected disruptions. Attachment often arises from the illusion of control. We believe that if we prepare well enough and perform perfectly, we can secure a specific outcome. In reality, life is shaped by countless factors beyond our prediction or influence. When you cling to the idea that things must happen as you wish, any deviation becomes a threat, and the mind reacts as if facing a major failure. Loosening your grip is breaking that illusion, recognizing that accepting what cannot be changed is itself a form of strength. The Stoics trained this mindset by daily reminding themselves of life's impermanence. Every success, failure, relationship, or circumstance can change or disappear. When you grasp this deeply, you stop clinging to them as if they were the sole foundation of stability. Instead, you place stability within where you control how you think, choose, and respond. Letting go also sharpens clarity in decision-making. When you are not bound by fear of loss or the urge to possess, you can evaluate situations more objectively. You become flexible, ready to change course if needed without framing it as personal failure. This is a crucial factor in surviving and thriving in a constantly changing world. It takes consistent practice, for human instinct seeks certainty. Each time you notice yourself clinging too tightly to an outcome, remind yourself that your worth does not lie in that result, but in how you live and act throughout the process. Every step of letting go frees energy, pulling you out of the spiral of negative emotion and back into the calm space where you can see what truly matters. When you master this, you will realize that loosening your grip does not diminish your drive. It allows you to live more fully and work more wholeheartedly, free from the obsession that things must end in one predetermined way. And in that freedom, you find true liberation. 9. Find solutions through calm. When facing difficulty, many people's instinct is to act immediately to relieve the pressure. Yet decisions made in haste often spring from emotional instability and are prone to error. The Stoics understood that calm is not just a state to preserve inner peace, it is the foundation for finding the most effective solution. A mind in turmoil struggles to analyze a situation objectively, while calm allows you to see the whole picture and choose a wiser path. Calm is the condition in which reason works at its highest capacity. When you are not caught in extremes of emotion, you can distinguish facts from assumptions, real causes from noise. This helps you avoid decisions based on speculation or bias, and instead focus on actions that truly deliver results. The Stoics saw this as a way to use energy precisely, without wasting it on unproductive directions. Finding solutions through calm also preserves your ability for creative thinking. Pressure can narrow your vision, making you see only one or two obvious options, while the best solution may lie beyond your initial thinking. Staying calm broadens your perspective, allowing new ideas to appear and be considered seriously. Calm also supports effective communication with those involved. In many situations, solutions cannot be reached without cooperation. A calm demeanor enables you to listen to others without defensiveness and to express your own views clearly and respectfully. This not only increases the chance of finding a shared path, but also minimizes unnecessary conflict. The Stoics did not wait for tension to arise before seeking calm. They trained it daily. This habit allowed them to quickly return the mind to balance when facing challenges. Preparation beforehand was the reason they were not caught off guard or thrown off balance when important decisions were required. Finding solutions through calm is a reminder that speed is not always the top priority. Sometimes slowing down to observe and assess will get you to the result faster than rushing in without a clear strategy. Calm does not make you slow, it ensures you set off in the right direction from the start, avoiding costly loops of error. Once you experience the benefits of finding solutions through calm, you realize this is not just a crisis handling skill, but an approach to every part of life. Each decision made in clarity and steadiness contributes to building a sustainable path, one where you solve problems while holding firm to your values and peace of mind. 10. Peace is a choice, not a reward. Many see peace as a state that will naturally appear when everything is going well, when goals are achieved, or when all difficulties are gone. This way of thinking turns peace into a distant reward, dependent entirely on external factors we cannot control. The Stoics saw it differently. Peace is not the result of circumstances, but a choice made in the midst of them, whether they are good or bad. When you view peace as a reward, you will always wait for perfect conditions before feeling at ease. Yet life offers no guarantee of such a perfect state. There will always be unwelcome events, losses, and sudden changes. If your peace depends on these things disappearing, you have handed all your self-mastery to the outside world. In contrast, when you see peace as a choice, you consciously decide how you will respond to every event. This does not mean you never feel sadness, anger, or disappointment. It means you do not let these emotions define your entire inner state. You can acknowledge them, let them pass, and return to balance not because circumstances forced you, but because that is the choice you made. The Stoics believe that peace is a skill to be trained. It does not appear by chance. It comes from consistently practicing the ability to distinguish what can be controlled from what cannot. Each time you refuse to let your mind be pulled into things beyond your reach, you strengthen your choice of peace. This choice is also tied to a clear understanding of core values. When you know what matters most to you, you are not easily swayed by fleeting things or the judgment of others. Peace comes from living in alignment with your own principles, not from securing the world's approval. Peace does not remove responsibility or action. On the contrary, it provides a solid foundation from which to act more wisely. When the mind is not constantly unsettled by forces beyond control, you have more energy and focus to address what truly matters. This is why many high achievers are able to remain calm in all situations. They understand that peace is a decision to be maintained every day. Choosing peace also means accepting life's impermanence. When you know everything can change, you cherish what you have today without excessive fear of losing it tomorrow. This acceptance does not make you passive. It frees you from the burden of anxiety, allowing you to live and act with true freedom. When you understand that peace is a choice, you stop searching for it in distant places or waiting for it as a gift. You begin to build it through the way you think, act, and respond each day. And in my view, calm and peace are not things that arrive only when life is favorable, but states we can choose even in the midst of chaos. They are not lucky gifts, but skills shaped through each thought and each response. By choosing calm, we not only protect our clarity, but also preserve our authority over any situation. Peace does not mean avoiding reality, it means facing it with steady resolve. The key is understanding that we cannot force the world to run according to our will, but we can always control how we respond. When this choice becomes habit, we no longer depend on external fluctuations to feel secure, and from there, we live more fully, more steadily, and in harmony with the values we uphold. If you found this video useful, Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future content. Remember, every lasting change begins with you. And when you can hold your peace in the midst of chaos, you are not only protecting yourself, you are spreading a quiet strength that helps the world around you become lighter and steadier. See you in the next video. Clinging too tightly to an outcome, remind yourself that your worth does not lie in that result, but in how you live and act throughout the process. Every step of letting go frees energy, pulling you out of the spiral of negativity